basically the design of navigation and the presentation of information. So the proper interface design is largely a matter of properly balancing the structure and the relationship of menu, content and other linked document or graphics. So the design goal is to build a hierarchy of menus and the pages that feels natural, well structured and it is easy to use. So web is a navigational environment where the people move between the pages of information, not on the application environment. It is also a graphically rich environment. So web interface design is difficult for a number of reasons. First reason is its underlying design language, that is HTML. Second one is the browser navigation retreated to the pre-GUI era. So web interface design is more difficult because the main issue concern information architecture and the task flow, neither of which is easy to standardize. It is more difficult because of the availability of various types of multimedia and the desire of many designers to use something simply because it is available. It is more difficult because user are ill-defined and the user tools so variable in nature. Next, we will see some of the popularities of web. While the introduction of graphical user interface revolutionized the user interface, the web has a revolutionary computing. It allows millions of people scattered across the globe to communicate, access information, publish, and be heard. It allows the people to control much of the display and rendering of the web pages. Usage has reflected these popularities. The number of internet hosts has risen dramatically. Users have become much more discerning about good design, slow download times, confusing navigation, confusing page organization, disturbing animation, and other undesirable site features often results in user abandonment of the site for others with the more agreeable interfaces. Now let us see some of the characteristics of the web design. So the web interface poses a number of characteristics which is similar to the GUI interface which we discussed already. So we can have the GUI versus web design concepts. So we can tell in terms of the following characteristics. With respect to, if you go with the devices, GUI usually all of you know that it user hardware variation limited, user hardware characteristics well defined screens appears exactly as specified. But with respect to the web interfaces, devices, that is the user hardware variation which is enormous and the screen appearance influenced by hardware only. Next, with respect to the user focus, GUI is data and application, but web interface is information and navigation. Okay. Next, with respect to the data or information, if we talk, with respect to the data, GUI typically created and used by known and trusted one, but web is full of unknown content. So with respect to information, in GUI, sources are trusted. Properties generally known, typically placed into system by the user or the known people or the and organizations. But the web sources are not always trusted, often not placed onto the web by the user or known people and the organization. Means it is highly variable organization. And we can tell the difference with respect to the user task. In case of GUI, user can install, configure, personalize, start, use, open, close, all those data files. And the familiarity with the application is often we can achieve it. But in case of web, like it linked to the site or which will be linked to the browser, read pages, fill out forms, upgrading programs, registers for service, participate in the transactions, download and save things. So familiarity with many sites which cannot be established. So now we can define with respect to the presentation. So in case of GUI, we can have windows, menus, controls, data, toolbar presented as specified by the designer and generally standardized by the toolkits and the style specification guidelines. But in case of web, two components, one is browser and one is the page. Within a page, any combination of text, images, audio, video, and animation we can may not be presented as specified by the designer or dependent on browser, monitor, user. There will be a little standardization in case of web interfaces. Next, we can define in terms of navigation. In case of GUI, user can navigate through menus, list, tree, dialogues and wizards. But in case of web, user can navigate through links, bookmarks, or we can go with typed URLs. Next, the difference in the context of interaction. Interactions such as clicking the menu choices, pressing buttons, selecting the list choices, cut, copy, paste occur within the context of active program. Basic interaction is a single click. This can cause the extreme changes in the context which may not be noticed in case of web interfaces. Next, we can tell the difference in terms of response time. So GUI usually it is instantaneous, nearly instantaneous, but web interface is quite variable, which depends on the transmission speeds, page content, and so on. Long times can upset the user. Okay. Next, we can define with respect to the system capability. So unlimited, in case of GUI, unlimited capabilities proportional to the application of hardware and software. In terms of hardware as well as software, configuration, all those things. But in case of web interfaces, which is limited by the constraint imposed by the hardware, browser, software, client support, and the user willingness to allow the features because of response time, security, as well as privacy concerns. Next, we can define with respect to task efficiency. Usually GUI targeted to a specific audience with a specific task. Only a limited amount of programming undertaken to support it. But in case of web interfaces, which is limited by browser and network capabilities, actual user audience usually not well understood, often intended for anyone and everyone. These are some of the differences, or we can tell with respect to GUI versus the web interfaces.